Welcome to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from July 1st, 1996.
From the high desert and the great American Southwest, I bid you all good evening, good morning, as the case may be, across this great land and all these time zones, from the Tahitian Hawaiian island chains, eastward across flyover country, all of us, to the Caribbean, the U.S. Virgin Islands. Good morning, St. Thomas. Down into South America, north to the pole, and worldwide on the internet, this is Coast to Coast AM. And I should begin by hoping to, in fact, welcoming WELI AM in New Haven, Connecticut. 960 on the dial, and I rather imagine heard over a very wide area. So good morning. Live Talk Radio has arrived. Yes, we are live. No, this is not a taped repeat. Also, KGFWAM in Kearney, Nebraska. Kearney, Nebraska, welcome. Well, here we go again. The Viper Militia. Now, there's a name for a militia. The Viper Militia. Viper is a snake, right? Another big militia problem. Authorities say a Phoenix group planned to launch terrorist attacks against multiple targets. They had a list. The ATF toppled the list, followed by the FBI, the IRS, the INS, which would be Immigration, Social Security, and the National Guard Armory. The ATF sealed off a Phoenix neighborhood today, arrested 12 members of that group on a 7-count federal indictment. Recovered automatic weapons, 400 pounds of ammonium nitrate, the same stuff that was used to take down the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. The group had produced a video. The feds have got it. On the video, it shows you where to place and how to place explosives on the various buildings I mentioned in order to most easily bring them down. The age group, 21 to 50 years of age, trained, we are told, in the Arizona desert, blowing up bombs, practicing bombing. Federal authorities say they believe this group has a loose connection to other militia groups. And so, you tell me, what is it we've got here? This militia group, that group, whatever. This is a group of people who planned an wanted an armed revolution against our government. Right? I mean, with automatic weapons and the decision apparently already made, training underway to blow up buildings, U.S. government buildings. You tell me what we've got here. You know what I want to ask you? Do these people represent you? If there was some sort of revolution to begin in this country, what side would you be on? Are you ready to go kill people and blow up things? Because that's what you use automatic weapons and ammonium nitrate for, killing people and blowing up things. I just don't believe that the average American person is at all prepared to do this. And those militias that are considering doing this sort of thing had better consider that no small, armed, radical group of people is ever able to take over anything that the majority or the great body of the American people are not prepared to support. In other words, they're going to be nothing short of terrorists. They're not patriots. They're terrorists. If the majority of the American people were ready for a revolution, then a small, determined fringe element group might have a chance because there would be support. But I know damn well there is not. There's a small group out there, and as I've told you faxes. Anybody connected with these various networks, fax networks, can wait. They're going to come marching in their black uniforms, in their black helicopters, and they're going to take us over and throw us into concentration camps, or bend our minds, or do whatever they're going to do. That kind of thinking is what leads to this kind of action, or planned action. So I would imagine people in Phoenix have a lot to think about this morning. All of us have a lot to think about this morning. Or is it, I mean, are you in sympathy? Do you think it's time for this? For the bullets to fly and the bombs to go boom? You want this place to end up like Beirut, where you've got to run through the streets dodging bullets? Is that the kind of America people want out there? Where it's going to lead? It's very serious. Saudi Arabia. The explosion there. Boy, that federal building. President Clinton has appointed a retired Special Forces Army general to assess security worldwide. Our troops in Saudi Arabia are described as angry and very nervous. Now, it was well established over the weekend in a pathetic kind of way that the Saudis had denied the Americans, I said denied the Americans' request to move the security fence from 100 feet to about 400 feet, which of course now is being done after the fact. But we had requested this apparently to be done. We had requested this to be done some time ago, and they refused. Now, every Sunday show from Meet the Press to Brinkley questioned Secretary Perry, who was on an aircraft carrier, about exactly this. Directly, Mr. Perry, Secretary Perry, is it true that the Saudis refused our request to broaden the security fence? He wouldn't answer. He just flat wouldn't answer. Sat there and talked about everything, but they would directly ask him and he wouldn't answer. So, a lot of people are very angry. Think that he ought to resign, and maybe he ought to. Do you want some political dancer as your Secretary of Defense? Do you? What do you want? The truth. I know the relationship between the Saudis and the Americans is very delicate. And that's probably why he was giving the non-answer. But he's our Secretary of Defense. Those were our GIs. I don't expect this kind of treatment from my own Secretary of Defense, and as far as I'm concerned, he ought to resign. A lot of calls for his resignation. You know, there was another bomb that went off in Saudi Arabia, and before the U.S. could interrogate those who were charged with that bombing, the Saudis put their necks in a guillotine and chopped their heads off. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So I was pretty angry, I must say, at Secretary Perry. And I wonder how you reacted when you heard it. I mean, it's been verified. So he just wouldn't answer the question. That's all. Last week, we talked about something that I've done a lot of thinking about, and I think that I've answered my own question. And I was ruminating last week about why the NBC Wall Street Journal poll said, and there have been backup polls, this, by the way, on we define, but about 68% of the American people think the White House was up to no good in the FBI files case. That's almost 7 out of 10. To me, that is amazing because the FBI files thing is very serious. In other words, they were using FBI files for political witch hunting. That's what the American people said they believed in that poll. And yet, even today, the president in the latest poll maintains a 15-point lead. 15 points over Dole. And I think I now know why the FBI files thing has not resonated with the American people. It's because, to some degree, the Republican Party, in its desperate dislike of Bill Clinton, has cried wolf one too many times. In other words, Whitewater, let's look at it, okay? Let's remember now back to from when the president first took office until now. Whitewater hasn't reached the president, probably is not going to reach the president, may or may not reach the first lady, but in other words, hasn't gone anywhere really yet to the White House. Draft dodging? The American people looked at what the president did, heard all the evidence, and basically said, so what? Paula Jones, the president might be in trouble there, but his attorneys have apparently successfully put off the Paula Jones business until after the election. Marital infidelities, big brouhaha, but explained away on 60 Minutes and basically accepted by the public. After all, they did elect President Clinton, right? Drug use? He never inhaled, remember? So the public never stoned him. Travelgate? Again, a big deal. Lots of big deals here. Proved cronyism. May yet go somewhere, but hasn't gone anywhere yet. Mrs. Clinton's New Age dalliance? Not a make or a break story, period. The latest revelations in the Aldrich book about President Clinton's supposed midnight trysts? So it has been a litany of one thing after another. The Republican Party has pounded at the president as though we're going to get you on Whitewater, draft dodging, Paula Jones, marital infidelities, drug use, Travelgate, New Age stuff, midnight meetings. Well, none of it had legs. At least not yet. It's not to say it won't, but it has not yet. So, in a way, the Republican Party is the party that cried wolf. And I think that that's why Filegate, which is really serious, is being treated by the American public as just one more of the above. They don't see the serious aspect to this. You know, the fact that this is a true, honest, god-awful breach of privacy. Big Brother time. Really is. But the American people, by now, are numb. They're numb with all of this. And it's like they've thrown a switch, and they're not hearing it. And that's what happens when you cry wolf. Finally, people turn you off. They don't listen anymore. And I think that's what's happened here. Now, there are some in Washington who are saying all of this will slowly get bigger and bigger, and there will be a critical point of mass when the American public will say, that's it, no more Clinton. But I don't think so. I'm not a believer in that. I think that the proof so far is that we have, if anything, caused the American people to become numb on the subject. So that's my take on it, and I'd be interested to see what you think. But I tried to figure that out last week. Couldn't figure out why the American people were not getting upset. Now, I think I know why.
You're listening to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from the 1st of July, 1996.
By the way, Birkeland's right on the money. Jim Birkeland. Guess you know he predicted quakes in California. There was a 3.5 earthquake in near the Bay Area on the San Andreas Fault. That is within his range and time. There was, I think, a 3.0 shaker in Washington. That may not quite make the magnitude range he talked about. But we remain dead in the window, the earthquake window that he talked about. Margot Hemingway found dead. God, this is sad. Actress model Margot Hemingway, the granddaughter of the late Nobel Prize-winning novelist Ernest Hemingway, a truly beautiful woman, was found dead Monday inside her Santa Monica home. The badly decomposed body of the 41-year-old Hemingway, discovered after friends called police saying they were worried because they hadn't seen her since last Friday. Cause of death unknown. Boy, that's weird. Margot Hemingway. And a mystery at that. Bob Woodward on Sunday shows on Meet the Press has written a book called The Choice. And in it, he portrays both Bob Dole and Bill Clinton. And it was interesting the way he said he went after this story. He looked at the way both men, Dole and Clinton, when it comes down to crunch time, make decisions. And he portrays Bob Dole as what I'm sure he is, a decent person who in fact has a center but cannot articulate it. That's what I think too. There's got to be more to Bob Dole than a lot of people believe. And I'm one of them. There's got to be more to this guy. I want to interview Bob Dole. Somebody like me has got to do it. We've got to do it. We've got to get Bob Dole. And I don't mean in a 15-minute sit down, answer all the important questions. I mean a sit down, let's meet Bob Dole. Let him sit at home on the telephone, wherever he is. He can, I hereby invite him. I've done it. And I will give him a good and fair interview. And I will try to find out about Bob Dole, the man, because the American people, I'm telling you, are not going to get engaged. They're not going to get excited. And they're sure not going to vote for Bob Dole until he tells us what he is about, what he wants to do as president. In other words, I know that old stupid thing, his vision. He has a hard time talking about that kind of stuff. And the only way you're going to get to it is in an extended, nice, relaxed interview in which you get to really probe the man. Not batter him with questions. You can see that done on the Sunday shows or on the evening news. But try to find out who we're dealing with here, because he always talks about Bob Dole in a detached way. Bob Dole is going to do this, or Bob Dole believes that. You never hear here's what I'm about. Here I am. Here's what I believe. Here are my firm foundations in belief. Here's how I make my decisions. You never hear that kind of interview with Bob Dole. And so somebody's got to do it, and I would love to do it. If I don't, then it ought to be Rush or somebody who will give him a good national forum and just let the American people meet the guy. Does that make any sense to you? It sure does to me. Anyway, if Clinton, Mr. Woodward suggests that Mr. Clinton has grown in office, but complained that the Clintons, whether or not they are guilty of anything, consistently act as though they've just been, you know, the kid who you just caught with their finger in the cookie jar, and you can see they know they've been caught, and they've got a sinking feeling in the gut of the pit of their stomach, gut of their belly, whatever, and they've got that sort of thunderstruck look on their face. And it is true of the Clintons, and that's why a lot of people suspect them, because they look guilty. What is it? Something about never let them see you sweat.
This is Premier Networks. That was Art Bell hosting Coast to Coast AM on this Somewhere in Time. Take you back to the past on Art Bell Somewhere in Time.
This just came rolling in from Tom in Columbia, Missouri. Art, you may not agree, but I made this little poster for my measly contribution to the campaign. Mind you, my biggest driving force is, quote, get Clinton out of here, end quote, Dole's lack of vision or not. Sheesh. Well, Tom, your intense dislike of Bill Clinton and slogans like "get him out of here," no matter what, no matter who, that is not going to work. It's like this radio program. I'm not fool enough to come on here when I try to sell you a product or a service, one of our advertisements. I don't come on here and say, "Hey folks, save the Art Bell Show. Support the Art Bell Show. Patronize my sponsors." There's about as much chance that you're going to go out and patronize anybody because I ask you to, because you like me, as the man in the moon. That's not the way you sell anybody anything. You sell people things by telling them why they need them. You sell people things by explaining how cool they are, why they are better than other things, why it's big value for the dollar. Any one of those things are valid ways to go and sell people. You sell people on why they should want this item, but you don't sell them by saying simply go out and save the Art Bell Show. Buy this stuff. So nobody but a fool buys that reason they buy things, because it's the same reason why when they had the big Buy American campaign for automobiles, back when America was not making automobiles that were up to par. You know, people had this big Buy America campaign. That's a bunch of bull. People don't buy America. When they go out and spend, what do you spend today? Upwards of 20 grand for a car? 15, 20 grand, whatever. You go out and get the best bang for your buck. Whether it's Japanese, Indonesian, Chinese, Russian, or Swiss, or German. You go buy the best thing you can find for the money. That's what you do. That's what everybody does. You know, they might say otherwise, but that is in fact with their dollar what they do. And that was proven time and time again back during the gas crunch, when Detroit had forgotten that they needed to meet the needs of the people they served, and Japan remembered it. Of course, now things have changed, but I just give that to you as an illustration. So, with regard to Bob Dole, you're not going to sell Bob Dole by saying, I don't like Clinton. You know, I don't like Clinton. There's got to be more. There's got to be more to Bob Dole, and we've got to get to it, and we've got to get it to the American people, or there is no chance, I repeat, no chance that Bob Dole is going to win this election, period. That's how serious it is. So anyway, I've got a lot more, but I guess I'm out of time and so I'll just go to the phones and we'll kind of drop some of the rest of this in as we go. Russian elections are coming up. China is going to take back Hong Kong in exactly 1 year. And that is a very interesting story. They're reviewing the military's gay policy. There's a big story about food. I'll try to get to that as we go on. Now, to the phones. Anything you want to talk about is fair game. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Oh, no, you're not. You're a dial tone. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Good morning, Art. This is Ron at 29 Palms.
Hi there.
I agree with your assessment on the crying wolf on the Republican Party.
Yeah.
But I don't think you go quite far enough. If you notice, most of the talk shows in the country today are conservative talk shows.
Right.
And the constant hammering day after day after day by these conservative talk show hosts
I know.
also wasn't part of the problem.
No, that's part of it. It is part of it. I mean, there have been the Larry Nichols and people like that who have been on battering with seemingly important, big breaking stories that go absolutely nowhere. And after a while, the American people get sort of glassy-eyed, and they get filled to the brim, and they just can't take anymore. And so when something finally comes along that really does count, they go,
Well, I agree, but it's a known fact even today that the registered Democrats outnumber the registered Republicans. And with the majority of the people out there being registered Democrats, and you have this constant pounding, it's kind of a us against them kind of scenario.
mm-hmm.
And I think, my own personal opinion, I think the political parties have worn out their effectiveness in this country. I think it's kind of so much us against them mentality.
I do not disagree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think the country could survive without parties? I mean, just candidates?
Could it survive that? Yes, I think so.
Would that be beneficial, do you think?
I'm not sure. Because then you've got, for example, Italy, where they've got, I mean, any candidate basically is going to have a set of beliefs, and then a party or supporters will form behind that candidate. So what you're really asking is, could we survive, or would it be good if we had many parties? Because that's what you'd have, and that's what they've got in Italy. And that isn't too good either.
Well, then how could you do away with the hierarchy that goes on in Washington, both on the Democratic side and the Republican side, where you have a leader, and the freshman congressmen and senators are expected to follow that leader? I mean, that doesn't bode well either, and that's the party going to its ultimate end.
No, it's a good point, sir, and believe me, I'm thinking it over, and we all should. I don't have the answers for you, or I suppose I would, myself run for office.
Just something to think about.
Yeah, you bet it is. Thank you very much for the call. Sure is. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Yeah, this is the American Hospital out of
How you doing?
Colorado. How you doing?
Fine.
Yeah, like I said last time I called, Bill Clinton is getting harangued and harassed by the Republican Party. I think the American people realize that the Republicans are looking like a bunch of desperate people.
Well, they have sounded a little that way over the last couple of years.
Well,
and I went through the litany of things, and I understand the Republicans desperately dislike Bill Clinton, but there's been an error made here, and that is, again, that in doing so much all the time, this constant pounding, when something really serious does come along, people just don't grasp it.
Exactly. I remember when Bill Clinton was, before he even got nominated, he was heard to be a favorite of the Democratic Party. There were people at my job at the time, like who were already digging up the bringing out the political jokes. I mean, it was like it was highly organized. They were already berating things.
Right.
And I feel sorry for them. I really do. I think that's why Colin Powell did what he did. Your life is reduced to a constant hounding. Everybody's investigating in every corner of your life.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about Colin Powell as well.
As far as Bob Dole coming on your show,
Yeah.
but that ain't going to happen. His political consultants aren't going to let him do that. And I think that's Bob Dole's problem. He's capable of charisma. When
if he doesn't come on my show and do it, he's going to have to go on somebody's show and do it.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, he is not going to win.
In '88, he gave this speech at the Republican convention, the Massachusetts Liberal speech. It was a brilliant piece of rhetoric.
Yes.
But he doesn't speak that way all the time. I don't understand it, and I think it's a political consumption.
It may be. I appreciate your call, sir, and it may be. He's going to have to get that kind of exposure, and I would be more than happy to provide it. I do that kind of interview, as you know. And I'm of the belief, when you interview somebody, you don't, if you're going to come at them like a cement mixer in the night, moving them over, you're not going to find out what they're all about. The only way is to sort of meet them at the level they wish to be met and try to find out about them. Then you get a good interview. At least that's the way I like to do it. And so I think I'd be a good one to interview Bob Dole and find out about the man and about the core beliefs. With Ronald Reagan, that was always very obvious, whether you liked or disliked Ronald Reagan. And you knew why he believed it. And so when he was going to make a decision, you could almost know exactly what it would be because you knew what he believed. And we need to find out what it is that Bob Dole believes. And that could be done in not a short interview, but an extended opportunity to just sit down and, in effect, talk with the American people. Does that make sense to you? It does to me. That is exactly what I told his headquarters. I faxed them things about the network and how many affiliates and how I felt about interviewing Bob Dole. And we'll see. We'll see. First time caller line, you're on the air. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Is this Art?
Good guess.
Hey, how's it going, Art?
Fine.
I really dug your show the other night about the Berkman earthquake stuff.
Yes.
Really great stuff.
Thank you.
I had some comments about the Republican issue. I sent you an email, I don't know if you got it, about the American distrust in the Republican Party, which I think is the big issue that you're kind of avoiding when you talk about what's wrong with the American people.
No, I'm not avoiding it. I think that I
Well, I think you're dealing with it tonight, whereas last week you didn't.
Oh, yes, I did. Well, last week, I was in the middle of trying to figure out why the American people felt that the Clinton administration had done this thing. Were wrong, and yet still supported Bill Clinton by 17 percentage points. That has dropped to 15, but it's still incredible.
Well, it is incredible, but at the same time, you have to think about the Republican Party record. I mean, you have to think about the prosecutor of Whitewater is Al D'Amato. Is not the cleanest politician around.
Could have fooled me. I thought the prosecutor was Starr.
Starr. I mean, I'm talking about the Whitewater Commission being led by Al D'Amato.
Yes, that's true.
And, he's not the cleanest politician around, and Newt Gingrich has dirt in his record. So it seems that the Republican Party has a lot of dirt, and also the fact that Bob Dole himself is one of Nixon's greatest acolytes, and that seems to generate a lot of distrust from the American people. So I think those are issues that are really tarnishing the Republican Party, and rightly so. So I think it says less about the American people, which was something you proposed last week, than it does about the Republican Party.
All right, I appreciate the call. Well, it's both. But the American people they have stopped listening. That's, I think, what's happened. There has been such a consistent pounding over over allegations and things that really ended up going nowhere, that they've just stopped listening. So, am I wrong?
You're listening to Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM, from the 1st of July, 1996.
By the way, have you noticed that Vince Foster is now said to have been the one who hired Mr. Livingstone. There's other people running around this new book in which it is said that the First Lady really is the one who did it, but actually now it's going to be Vince Foster, so just about everything in Filegate, I'm sure by the time it is over, will be Vince Foster's fault. On the first-time caller line, you're on the air.
Yeah, this is Bob from Yucca Valley.
Hi, Bob.
How are you tonight?
Fine.
I just wanted to comment on the Saudi Arabian problem
Yes, sir.
and the communication between the Saudis and our military. It was about, I'm getting you, by the way, on K News here in Yucca Valley.
Yes, sir.
A mutual period and item just before you came on the air where the general or the ranking officer for the military there in Saudi Arabia had not mentioned anything to his superiors about the problem associated with moving those barriers further. So I'm wondering whether Perry even knew anything about the fact that we had, through our military, requested the barriers.
Well, look, sir, yes, he did, because he would not answer the question. Now, if, in fact, he had a lack of knowledge about that subject, or had never heard it, then he would have easily come back and said, oh, no. No, there was nothing like that. The cooperation between the U.S. and the Saudis has been ideal. That's what he would have said. Instead, he did the biggest tap dance I've ever seen in my whole life around the whole question, refusing to answer it.
Well, that's a possibility, all right, but
No. There's not a possibility. I heard it.
You're not hearing what I'm saying.
Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am.
I worked in Saudi Arabia for 6 years, from 1983 to 1990.
Yes.
And I worked for a private concern, but I was at the Riyadh airport.
Right.
King Khalid International Airport in Riyadh.
Yes.
And I worked there in management. I was responsible for helping to bring the new airport online in 1983.
And
then helping to train Saudis.
Okay, how does that...
The only thing I'm trying to say here, to make a long story short, is the Saudis are very, very intent on not wanting to be controlled by outside forces.
Oh, I agree with you there. As a matter of fact, that's one of the main motives thought for the bombing. That we are contaminating their social structure there. You know, the women are beginning to get uppity and wanting to drive cars and things like that, all since we arrived. So that is true. But it does not bear on Secretary Perry's evasive, by omission lie with regard to the request for increased security and a denial of that request by the Saudis. And I've never seen such political tap dance in my whole life. That's our Secretary of Defense. And I expect him to some degree to be separated by politics, from politics, though I know it's too much to hope for. And tell us the truth when it has to do with the death of American GIs. Is that too much to ask? On the Wildcard line, you're on the air, coast to coast, AM with Art Bell. Hi.
Hi, Mark.
Where are you?
Calgary, Alberta, KGA, I listen to.
All right.
Spokane.
Good. Welcome.
Yeah, it is interesting talk show you got. You were turning me into a insomniac, too, I might add. But I really, in the interior of British Columbia, I pick you up a lot better.
That's great.
I have a place out there I go to regularly. But I was just going to comment on your conclusions regarding Mr. Clinton's problems and by the American people have ignored the, I have a fairly intensive study of the U.S. situation for my own information.
All right, and so from outside the U.S., what can you tell us about it?
Well, I'm a stock market buff. I have been for a long time, long before most people recognized it was a place to be, but the stock market is a barometer of good feelings for the people in general, and I think it's a collective psychosis kind of thing.
Okay.
And those good feelings are translated into it's okay. But when things are bad, when the stock market eventually turns down, which it probably will do fairly soon,
Yes.
Those good feelings will evaporate very fast, and the American people will then start to blame their leader for it. It doesn't matter who they are, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. They're putting themselves a free lunch, I think, in ignoring the kind of integrity misadventures of Mr. and Mrs. Clinton.
All right, thank you. Look, at one level, it doesn't matter. In other words, he's correct. As long as things are going well, money's in the pocket, people have jobs, the market is booming, things are going well, people just aren't going to pay attention. That's another factor, and another reason this may not be resonating with the American people. But frankly, it's more than that. I mean, look at Nixon. Things were winding down, it was ending, and things basically were on their way back to normal. And yet, Watergate did resonate. It hard. That hasn't happened with Filegate. Not yet. Anyway. And the reason is because the American people have had their heads pounded into the sidewalk. Yes, by some in talk radio, by the press, by the people who just plain don't like Bill Clinton. And there have been so many times that the conservatives, in my opinion, have basically cried wolf, that the American people are just sort of yawning and not paying attention right now. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't think so. I don't think so. So in a kind of a strange way, the continuing pounding from the right on Clinton is now, it's gone so far that it's actually helping Clinton. That's what I believe. At any rate, we're going to break here at the top of the hour, and you think that over, and you try and figure out for yourself whether that is right or wrong, and I would like to hear from you.
The trip back in time continues with Art Bell hosting Coast to Coast AM. More somewhere in time coming up. Premier Networks presents Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from July 1st, 1996.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome again to WELI in New Haven, Connecticut. 960 on the dial, 5,000 non-directional big ones. I suspect they cover a lot of that country. And also KGFWAM in Kearney, Nebraska. 1340 on the dial. Good to have you with us. How about that Jim Birkeland, huh? How about that Jim Birkeland? An earthquake on the San Andreas Fault, 3.5. In the window, now through July 6th. Did you jump a little bit when you heard about that one? I did. All right, back to the lines. East of the Rockies, you're on the air.
How in the world are you, Art?
Okay.
Well, good. You know, I really appreciate you, and the reason is